Race relations. I mean, look, a day of peace when that finally is in a situation, when that's finally something that's not a thing we don't have to worry about, that will
Mhm.
be a beautiful day. In the meantime, we do have history to look back on, and we have lessons that we can learn. And I'm especially happy to bring in author Jerry Schellhammer. He wrote a book called A Man's Passion. And, a big part of this book has to do with race relations, relationships with families, goes back into the 1920s. And Jerry, I'm going to just bring you on in here and have you paint the picture for us about what the book's about and the setting.
Okay. Um, I got the idea of this book back in 2016 when the 60 Minutes did a program about the Peace and Justice Museum. And the the host thing was about how the the building was set up and everything. And so I was inspired by that museum to write a story about that. What I did was I wrote in there about, first of all, I wrote in there about a black man getting lynched. It
That's
wasn't long
painful.
enough, and it's very painful.
Yeah.
And um, the main character in the story was Hattie. At the time, Hattie White. Her father was a white man, and she grew up in poor portion of Georgia.
Okay.
A tenant farmer for a tobacco company.
It's like around the 1920s or so, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's an interracial marriage.
Yes,
Mhm.
and as a consequence of the lynching, having witnesses, she falls in love with the poor man that was killed, her son, or his son rather.
Okay.
They um, become
Mm.
pen pals to an extent, and just correspond with each other over the years. Finally, in
Mm.
1938, they marry and have a family, and of course, and between that time, their life happens. We had the World War II. Her husband is killed, and her brother's killed. So.
Wow. That is a lot of life. And then there's a parallel story that's running alongside of that also.
Yes, exactly. And um, next chapter of the story is about Rufus and Spike Lee. Both are outlaws, criminals. They live a bad life themselves. They're both black. They have many things against them, and of course, they have criminal records. So they're not reformable, basically. But they um, are on the run. They kill a Georgia state trooper and head south. After Hattie and her great granddaughter Dot, visit the museum, they go, they meet up with them eventually towards the end, and then of course there's the climax of that, and then the after that we have a portion of the story that deals with Dot's life after Hattie,
Mm.
years later.
So you've got the women with the romance, you've got the guys with the action, but what
Mhm.
really stands out to me, Jerry, is that you seem to really have a heart for this racial
Oh yeah.
injustice. That is something, I mean, it's almost your way of putting your fist in the air saying, we
Right.
need to bring this to light. This is not right. This is
Yeah, it
something of
is.
the
Yeah.
past. We can't just hide that it happened. We can't let it go on in the future. Is that kind of what your message is?
Yes, exactly. I had, yes, I lived my entire life in the 60s, early 60s and 70s and whatnot. I saw this stuff, and,
Yeah.
and, and one day thing I'd like to see, I wasn't a fan of the race riots in the 60s and definitely not a fan of the segregation in the early 60s before Martin Luther King came along and put a stop to it basically with what happened and then civil rights movement and the Voting Rights Act and all that. I thought, we have to do something that makes everything right in the world. And um, I have no tolerance for racism. I'm a racist against racism, basically, what I'm else being.
Mm. Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
have any use for it at all. People who are that way may not be ignorant, but they are socially unacceptable, basically, what I'm asked to being.
right, right. So it sounds like this book, while it's raw and it's real and it's
Hmm.
transparent and there's a lot of
Right,
truth and history to it,
right,
it's a
exactly.
book of hope, isn't it, Jerry?
Yes, that's what I'm hoping for. And the last book, or last part of the story, I wanted to kind of throw out at everybody to kind of give you an idea of what I'm having to say here.
Yeah, let's hear you
Um,
read some.
I, I, I first must remind you about man's, a man's passion. You see, passion can take many forms: hate, lust, greed, and in this case, it was a fashion of. Sorry, it was a passion for life to carry on the family name so that all of you would be here today. All those make our life what it is, a man's passion.
Jerry, talk to me about what makes you so emotional about that.
Um, is this how I am? I carry my emotions on my sleeve. I probably shouldn't, but I do. I I've seen a lot of crap in my life, and, as far as how people treat other people, including me. I was born with a cleft palate. I had uh, a lot going against me for a long time because I'm not a pretty person. I don't have the social graces most other people that have had it better in their lives. And I know what prejudice is. I lived it myself. So yeah, it impressed me emotionally very much.
Jerry, that just what you just said tears my heart out.
Yeah,
Um from things that we can't control in our lives, right? Things
right,
that God made us all special and unique. And
exactly.
um you're you're leading the way saying, I'm one person, but I'm going to do my
Yeah,
part to try to make
right.
this right.
Yeah, exactly. So
It takes a strong person to stand up and do that,
right.
especially when you've seen a lot of abuse
Mm-hmm.
emotionally and,
Mm-hmm.
in so many ways biased. You're
Right.
I didn't realize when you and I first started this interview, you're relating with these people
Oh
on a
yeah.
level
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people aren't. You have, I mean, you are deep entrenched in these characters. Like,
Yes, I am.
you're in this book because you felt their pain.
Right. I did. You know it.
Jerry, what are some of the parallel pain that you think that you felt that the characters in the book have felt?
Um, in the case of like Hattie, and well, they all were not. They never grew up with a silver spoon in their mouths. Okay, they are all working class type people. Hattie, in her life, became a school teacher. Um, she grew up poor. She knows what life is like being poor. Um, Dot, somewhat the same way. Her life revolved around being in a tight family, but they were not rich by any stretch of the imagination either. They were just middle class people. And Rufus came from uh, one a marriage. Well, only a marriage. It was his mother, yeah, got impregnated when she was 14, and so
Mm,
he lived a life in poverty, and Spike was the same way. He lived in a large family down in Celebration, Florida.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is they're they're they are not on the high end of the social economic spectrum by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to point out is that we're all people, but we have to really help each other out in a lot of different ways as well.
Jerry, I can't think of a better way to end the interview than on those words. We need to help
Right.
each other out.
Yeah.
Tell us where your book is available. How can we find it?
Okay, you can find it on most any um, um, Amazon. Um, uh,
Where
uh,
normal books are sold
yeah,
online.
we're no,
Hmm.
Amazon, Barnes and
Hmm.
Noble, uh, Goodreads. The
Okay.
website has it. eBay has copies available, um, and my website also, you can get off my website, which has my blogging as well. It's
Okay.
jerryshellhammer.com.
Jerry, I know that you're represented by Maple Leaf Publishing. We thank them for setting
Mm-hmm.
us up and thank you for your time. And Jerry, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your transparency and
Yep.
your rawness and just being so real and vulnerable. We love
Right.
you and you are
Right.
special.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Right.